I was 2.5 hours into assembling a bookshelf when I realized my marriage was a lie. Not just any bookshelf, mind you, one of those sleek, modern ones from a Scandinavian brand that sells existential crises disguised as furniture. The kind that makes you question your intelligence because you apparently can't line up 6 planks of wood without creating a safety hazard. Lauren had insisted we needed it. For organization, she had said, waving her hand vaguely toward the living room. It'll make everything look neater. As if adding one more piece of furniture was going to make up for the fact that we own more stuff than any two people should. But whatever. I had agreed because that's what husbands do. We nod, we assemble things, and we only question the necessity of it all internally. So there I was, sweating over an instruction manual written by someone who clearly hated people, when I noticed something odd. The bookshelf was missing a piece. Not in the forgot to include it in the package kind of way, but in the I swear it was right here 2 minutes ago kind of way. I looked around. Nothing. Looked again. Still nothing. I sighed, ran a hand through my hair, and stood up. Lauren, I called out. Did you see a random wooden plank lying around? Silence. Which was strange because she was supposed to be home. I checked the kitchen. Empty. The bedroom? Empty. The bathroom? Empty. I was about to chalk it up to her taking an impromptu walk, something she never did. But hey, people change when I spotted something on the floor near the front door. Her shoes. Not just any shoes. Red heels. The same red heel she wore only twice a year, once on our anniversary and once when she wanted something expensive. Now, I'm not a detective. I don't wear a trench coat and dramatically sip black coffee while solving mysteries. But I do have a working brain. And that brain immediately screamed. This is weird. Lauren never left her shoes near the door. She was the kind of person who arranged them neatly in the closet, always in pairs, always with some impossible-to-understand logic about seasonal rotation. The fact that these were tossed aside like an afterthought? That was out of character. I frowned. And then I saw the second thing. Her purse, on the floor, next to the couch. Open. Lauren never left her purse open. Ever. It was some unspoken rule of the universe, like gravity or my inability to correctly assemble furniture. Now, under normal circumstances, I would have just shrugged it off and gone back to my war with the bookshelf. But something about this scene, it wasn't just off. It was wrong. I hesitated for a second before picking up her purse. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even looking for anything. I just wanted to close it. Fix the weirdness of the moment. That's when a crumpled receipt fell out. I bent down to pick it up, and that's when the universe decided to punch me straight in the gut. Because there, in clear printed letters, was a purchase made just an hour ago. A single men's t-shirt. Large. Lauren did not wear men's t-shirts. And I? Well, I preferred the shirts I already had. You know, the ones I owned and had actually seen before. I stared at the receipt, turning it over like maybe it would magically explain itself. Maybe it wasn't our Lauren who bought it. Maybe there was another Lauren in town, running around buying oversized men's clothing for no apparent reason. Or maybe I was about to discover that my wife had some very unexpected hobbies. Now, in situations like these, most people would take a second to sit down, breathe, and collect their thoughts. I did none of that. Instead, I grabbed my phone and did what any rational person in my position would do. I texted her. Me. Hey, where are you? No response. I waited a minute. Then 2. Then 5. Nothing. So I called. It rang 3 times before going to voicemail. Now, that was unusual. Lauren was the type of person who answered calls even when she was in the middle of a hurricane. Her voicemail wasn't just for emergencies, it was for other people's emergencies. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. Not quite anger. Not quite panic. Just unease. I looked at the receipt again. The purchase had been made at a department store about 10 minutes from our house. And just like that, I knew what I had to do. I grabbed my keys, left the half-assembled bookshelf standing like a monument to my frustration, and walked out the door. I didn't know what I was expecting to find, but I had a feeling it wasn't going to be good. The department store wasn't crowded, which made my life easier. No need to dodge shopping carts or people who suddenly forgot how to walk in a straight line. I walked in, scanned the area, and immediately felt like a moron. What exactly was I looking for? Lauren standing at the register, proudly holding up a men's t-shirt like it was some kind of trophy? A neon sign above her head blinking guilty? No, I needed a plan. A logical, reasonable way to approach this. So, naturally, I went to customer service and asked the bored teenager behind the counter a question that, in hindsight, probably made me sound unhinged. Hey, my wife was here earlier. Bought a men's t-shirt. Large. About an hour ago. Did she say what it was for? The kid blinked at me, then looked around like maybe someone else would handle this. No one did. No, he finally said. We don't, ask people why they're buying things. Fair. I sighed and rubbed my temple. Right. Of course. Never mind. He shrugged and went back to pretending to be busy. I took a slow lap around the store, checking the aisles like I was some undercover detective, which, let's be real, I was absolutely not. But I wasn't leaving without something useful. Then I saw her. Not Lauren, but close enough. A woman stood near the fitting rooms, holding a familiar red purse. Lauren's purse. And unless my wife had suddenly aged 20 years, cut her hair into a bob, and decided glasses were her thing, this was not Lauren. I approached, keeping my voice casual. Excuse me. That purse, where did you get it? The woman turned, confused at first, then narrowed her eyes. It was in the fitting room, she said slowly, clutching it closer. Why? Because it belongs to my wife. Her expression shifted to something I couldn't quite place. Pity? Annoyance? Either way, she handed it over without a fight. Well, she left it in there. Maybe you should ask her what she was doing. Maybe I should. I took the purse, barely managing a thanks, and walked away. Now, let's pause for a second. At this point, a normal person would have left the store, waited for their wife to come home, and had a civil conversation like two grown adults. But me? I wasn't feeling particularly normal. Lauren's purse being here meant she was here, or had been, and I wasn't about to just guess where she went next. I opened the purse, not to snoop, just to investigate. Her phone wasn't inside, which meant she still had it on her. But her wallet was there, stuffed with the usual, cash, cards, and a receipt from. I froze. A receipt from the arcade. Yes, the arcade. Not a restaurant. Not a boutique. Not some place that made even a tiny bit of logical sense. The arcade. Lauren, a 34-year-old woman, had, at some point in the last hour, decided to take a break from her usual routine of yoga classes and overpriced candles to, what? Play skee-ball? This was getting ridiculous. I left the store, tossed the purse into my passenger seat, and drove to the only arcade in town, which I hadn't stepped foot in since I was a teenager. The place looked exactly the same. Neon lights, outdated carpet, the faint smell of broken dreams and soda syrup. I walked inside and did a quick scan. And there she was. Lauren, sitting in a booth, across from a man wearing a large white t-shirt. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched. She was laughing. Not the polite kind she gave when someone told a bad joke at a dinner party, but the kind where her whole face lit up, like she was actually happy to be there. And then the guy, t-shirt guy, leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, and said something that made her laugh again. I felt something tighten in my chest. This wasn't some casual outing. This wasn't two coworkers grabbing coffee. This was Lauren on a date. A date that apparently involved arcade games, because right there, next to her on the table, were 2 stacks of game tokens. I don't know why that part made me the angriest, but it did. Because who has an affair at an arcade? Who sneaks around, risks their entire marriage, and does it next to a claw machine? I wasn't thinking anymore. I just acted. I walked straight to their table, pulled out a chair, and sat down like I had been invited. Lauren's smile froze. T-shirt guy looked confused. I folded my hands on the table and gave them both a polite, tight-lipped smile. Well, isn't this cozy? Lauren swallowed. Henry. Go ahead, I interrupted. I'd love to hear the explanation. Maybe you're here for, I don't know, an emergency meeting about the ethical implications of air hockey. T-shirt guy looked between us, clearly realizing he had just been thrown into something way above his emotional pay grade. He started. I should probably. I held up a hand. No, don't leave now. I mean, you already won the t-shirt portion of the evening. Might as well stick around for the rest. Lauren's face turned red. Henry, let's not do this here. Oh, I agree. We should have done it at home, when you came back and pretended you spent the day doing literally anything else. T-shirt guy looked like he wanted to evaporate. Lauren rubbed her temple. Please, let's just. I turned to the guy. So, who are you? What's your thing? Do you just love stealing other people's wives, or was this a spur-of-the-moment decision? T-shirt guy held up his hands. I didn't know she was married. I nodded slowly. Classic. Did you find out before or after the skee-ball tournament? Lauren groaned. Henry, Stop. You know what? You're right. I should stop. Because standing here, in the middle of a family-friendly establishment, watching my wife go on a romantic adventure that involves winning plastic prizes is not how I pictured my Saturday going. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. T-shirt guy, to his credit, had the decency to look guilty. Look, man, I really didn't. I held up a finger. Save it. I don't care about you. I turned back to Lauren. You? We'll talk later. Then, without another word, I stood up, walked past the blinking lights and arcade sounds, and left. I had a lot to think about. And unfortunately, none of it involved finishing that stupid bookshelf. I don't know what's worse, finding out your wife has been sneaking around behind your back or realizing that her grand romantic escape involved an arcade. An arcade. Of all the places. Not a secret getaway. Not some dramatic forbidden rendezvous. No. She had to go and make a fool out of me next to a claw machine. I sat in my car, staring at the dashboard, processing everything. I wasn't sad. Not yet. I wasn't even angry in the traditional sense. Mostly, I was annoyed. Annoyed that I wasted my entire afternoon assembling a bookshelf that would now forever be associated with Lauren's stupid affair. Annoyed that this whole thing didn't even feel serious. Affairs are supposed to be dramatic, aren't they? Full of secrecy and high stakes? This wasn't that. This was tickets for prizes nonsense. And worst of all, I was annoyed that I had to figure out what to do next. Because really, what's the correct response when your wife cheats in the most ridiculous way possible? I could confront her at home. But then what? Have a big dramatic argument where she gives me some half-hearted excuse? Please. I wasn't in the mood for whatever fictional story she'd come up with. I needed leverage. And lucky for me, I had an idea. Lauren wasn't a mastermind. If she was, she wouldn't have left her purse lying around like a rookie. And if she was careless enough to leave that, there were probably more mistakes waiting to be discovered. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went back home, grabbed my laptop, and pulled up our shared account records. Now, let me clarify something. I wasn't some paranoid husband who tracked every cent my wife spent. Normally, I didn't care. If she wanted to blow money on yoga classes and overpriced candles, that was her business. But today, it was my business. It didn't take long to find something interesting. A charge from 2 weeks ago. Paintball Arena, $98.50. Lauren had never played paintball in her entire life. She once cried because a tennis ball hit her in the arm. There was no universe where she suddenly decided to run around getting pelted with paint at full speed. I leaned back in my chair. So, first the arcade. Now paintball. I had to give it to her. This wasn't your typical cheating pattern. She wasn't booking hotel rooms or sneaking off to candlelit dinners. No. She was out there living her best frat boy life. Which meant whoever this guy was, he was dragging her into his hobbies. I stared at the screen, debating my next move. I could ask her about it, but she'd just lie. That's what cheaters do. Or I could go there myself. And that's exactly what I did. The next afternoon, I drove to the paintball place, casually walked in like I belonged there, and approached the counter. A bored-looking teenager sat behind it, chewing gum with the kind of energy that said she hated every single person who walked through the door. I leaned on the counter. Hey, quick question. My wife was here a couple weeks ago. Think you could check if she was part of a group? She gave me the most unimpressed look of my life. Sir, I don't keep track of people's wives. Fair. I sighed. Okay. What about reservations? Do you have names on file? She rolled her eyes, turned to the computer, and lazily typed something in. What's the name? Lauren Bennett. Click, click, click. She stared at the screen, then shrugged. Nope. No Lauren Bennett. I frowned. What about under another name? Maybe a guy's name. More clicking. Then she perked up. Oh, yeah. A group booking under Jake Palmer. 2 weeks ago. 5 people. Tower session. Jake Palmer. Didn't ring a bell. Any way to see who else was in that group? I asked. She shook her head. Nope. We just take the main name for the reservation. Why? You looking to book a party or something? A party. Right. That's what this was. A paintball party. I forced a smile. Something like that. And just like that, I had a name. I walked out, sat in my car, and pulled out my phone. I wasn't about to sit around waiting for Lauren's explanation, which, knowing her, would probably involve some wildly stupid lie. I needed information. So, I did the next logical thing. I searched the name on social media. And there he was. Jake Palmer. His profile was public. Because of course it was. The guy screamed overconfidence. I clicked through his pictures, and there she was. Lauren, in paintball gear, laughing, standing next to him. They weren't doing anything obvious. No holding hands. No dramatic display of affection. But I wasn't a fool. It wasn't just a group photo. It was the way she was looking at him. I knew that look. I had been that look. And that's when it hit me. Lauren wasn't just cheating. She was dating this guy. She wasn't sneaking around for a one-time fling. She was involved. Going to arcades. Playing paintball. Doing activities. And that was somehow way worse. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being replaced. By this guy. A guy who thought an arcade was a romantic destination. I closed the app, gripping my phone a little tighter than necessary. All right. If she wanted to play stupid games, I was about to show her that I could play, too. And I wasn't about to lose. It took Lauren exactly 2 hours and 14 minutes to pretend nothing had happened. I got home that evening, sat on the couch, and waited. Not for her to confess. No, that would have required basic honesty, which at this point, I was fairly certain she lacked. I just wanted to see how good she was at lying. She walked through the door, set her bag down like it hadn't just been abandoned in an arcade 24 hours ago, and flashed me a smile. Hey, she said, casual as ever. How was your day? Oh, we're doing this, I thought. It was interesting, I said, watching her closely. You. She stretched her arms, faking a yawn. Busy. Ran errands. Went to yoga. Just the usual. She was good. Not great, but good. The yoga excuse was solid, vague enough to sound normal, but not detailed enough to risk getting caught in a lie. The problem was, she'd used it too many times. I smiled back, mirroring her energy. Yeah? You look like you had a productive day. Yeah, she nodded, dropping onto the couch next to me. What did you do? Well, Lauren, I went to a paintball arena, had a delightful chat with a teenage employee, stalked your boyfriend's social media, and realized you were out here acting like a high schooler on a first date. Not much, I said instead. She sighed, completely unaware of the tidal wave of consequences about to crash over her. Ugh, I'm exhausted. I might go to bed early. I bet you are, sweetheart. Must be tiring running around with a guy who still thinks paintball is a personality trait. I nodded. Yeah, you should get some rest. Big day tomorrow. She frowned. What's tomorrow? I patted her knee. Oh, don't worry. You'll see. Her lips parted slightly, confused, but I didn't give her time to question it. I stood up, stretched, and headed to the bedroom, leaving her sitting there, blinking at the back of my head. I needed her confused, unsettled, because what was coming next? She wasn't going to see it coming. The next morning, I left for work like normal. Or at least, that's what Lauren thought. What I actually did was make a few adjustments to our life. Step 1. Social experiment. I started with our joint group chat. You know, the one we had with our friends. The normal, innocent space where people shared fool memes and weekend plans. I sent a single message. Hey, random question. Anyone ever been paintballing? Thinking of trying it. Now, I wasn't expecting anything groundbreaking. Maybe a few generic responses. What I wasn't expecting was for Lauren to respond immediately. Oh, I actually went a couple weeks ago with some coworkers. It was fun. Oh, that's interesting. Because if I had any doubt before, it was gone now. She could have ignored the message. Could have let someone else answer. But no, she had to insert herself into the conversation. Like she needed to control the narrative before anyone else could. I didn't respond. Just let the message sit there while I moved to step 2. Step 2. Personal reminder. Lauren and I shared a streaming account. We had separate profiles, but they were linked. And lucky for me, she never logged out of hers. I opened it, scrolled to her watch history, and started clicking on every single paintball-related movie I could find. I went deep. Documentaries. B-movies. Even that awful 90s action flick where people dramatically dive roll behind barrels. By the time I was done, her entire recommended list was paintball propaganda. Was it petty? Yes. Did it make me feel better? Absolutely. Step 3. The grand event. This was the best part. The real fun. See, Lauren thought she was in control. Thought she could just slip away, live this double life, and come home like nothing happened. She forgot one thing. I knew how to be petty on a professional level. I called up a few of our friends, made some arrangements, and then I waited. By the time Lauren got home, I had everything in place. Hey, babe, I greeted, overly cheerful. Guess what? She raised an eyebrow. What? I clapped my hands together. I booked a couples event for us this weekend. She blinked. What? I grinned. Oh, you're gonna love it. A surprise date. Thought it'd be fun to shake things up. Her smile faltered just slightly. Oh, what kind of event? I leaned forward. Paintball. The second of silence that followed? Glorious. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Paintball? Yup. I beamed. I was thinking about your message in the group chat. You said you had fun, so I figured, why not do it together? She swallowed. Oh, that's thoughtful, right? I nodded. Oh, and I invited everyone from the group chat. Turns out a lot of people were interested. Gonna be a whole thing. I watched her brain short-circuit. Because what was she supposed to do now? Say no? Tell me she suddenly hated paintball after claiming she loved it? Admit she wasn't actually with coworkers? No, Lauren, you played yourself. She forced a smile. That sounds amazing. I patted her knee. Glad you think so. Should be fun. Now, here's the best part. I already knew exactly what was going to happen. She was either going to back out at the last minute with some excuse, or she was going to show up and spend the entire time panicking that someone would recognize her. Either way, I was going to have a front row seat to her unraveling. And honestly, I couldn't wait. Lauren didn't back out of paintball. I could tell she wanted to, though. Her face gave her away every time someone in the group chat brought it up. She forced a smile, nodded along, but her eyes? Pure panic. Like a kid who just got caught drawing on the walls and is waiting for their parents to notice. But she still showed up. And let me tell you, watching her try to act casual while scanning the place like a fugitive on the run? Worth every second. She flinched at every employee. Checked over her shoulder every time someone walked past. At one point, she even ducked behind me when she saw a guy in a white t-shirt. Not even Jake, just some guy wearing a large white t-shirt. Incredible. Of course, nothing happened. No dramatic confrontation. No one exposed her in front of the group. But she was miserable the whole time, and honestly, that was enough for me. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Because apparently Lauren had a different approach to handling the situation. She didn't just sit back and wait for me to make the next move. No. That would have been too easy. Instead, she decided to go full scorched earth. The first sign came 2 days later. I got home from work and found every single one of my dress shirts missing from the closet. Gone. Like they never existed. I stared at the empty hangers, blinking. Then Lauren strolled in, all innocent. Oh, you're home early. I turned slowly. Lauren, where are my shirts? She feigned confusion. Oh, those? Yeah, I donated them. I inhaled. You donated them? Yeah, she nodded. You don't wear them much. I figured someone else could use them more. I stared at her. She stared back, daring me to call her out. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't some innocent mistake. This was calculated pettiness. She was trying to mess with me. I smiled. You know, that's really thoughtful of you. She blinked. It is. Yeah, I said, walking past her. Because I just got a bonus at work. Guess I'll have to go shopping. Maybe even upgrade my wardrobe. She tinched just slightly. Good. But that wasn't the end. A week later, I woke up to find my car missing from the driveway. I checked my phone. No texts. No calls. Just an empty spot where my car used to be. I walked back inside. Lauren, where's my car? She barely looked up from her phone. Oh, I traded it in. I exhaled through my nose. You traded it in? Yeah, she said, flipping a page in some magazine she wasn't even reading. I mean, it was getting old. Figured it was time for something new. Something new, I repeated. And what did you get instead? She grinned. Nothing yet. Just wanted to clear some space first. She was testing me, seeing if she could break me. I just nodded. Cool. Guess I'll take your car then. Her smile twitched. Excuse me. You got rid of mine, I said, already grabbing her keys. So I'll drive yours. She sat up. You don't even like my car. Well, I also liked having my own. I shot back. And yet, here we are. She scowled. I smiled. That was round 2. Round 3? She tried to take it legal. I got a letter in the mail. Thick envelope. Official looking. Divorce papers. Not just any divorce papers, aggressive ones. She wanted the house. The savings. Half my salary for the next 5 years. I read it. Then read it again, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Then I calmly set it down, grabbed my phone, and called the best divorce lawyer in town. Not because I was scared. because I was about to make this fun. "Hey, Tom," I said when he picked up. "How would you like to ruin my wife's entire plan?" Tom was an old friend, a very good lawyer, and most importantly, he loved revenge cases. He laughed. "Henry, you just made my day." Lauren thought she could destroy me. She had no idea what was coming. Lauren underestimated me. That was her first mistake. Her second mistake was assuming a man who had just lost his car, his shirts, and half his closet space was going to roll over and hand her the rest of his life on a silver platter. I had other plans. Tom, the lawyer, not the cat, was delighted when I sent over Lauren's ridiculous demands. He even took a minute to laugh before composing himself and saying, "Wow, she really thinks she's going to walk away with everything, huh?" "Yeah," I said, flipping through the pages. "She even wants my grandma's old record collection, the one she hated when we were together." Tom whistled. "Cold. But don't worry. You're going to love what I've got planned." Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I do understand common sense. And common sense told me that Lauren's legal strategy was built entirely on nonsense. She didn't just want the house. She wanted it without paying for it. She didn't just want money. She wanted more than she was even legally entitled to. She wasn't just trying to win. She was trying to bury me alive, which meant there was only one logical response. I needed to dig her grave first. Step 1. Unraveling the fantasy. Lauren's whole case was built on the idea that she was the victim, that I was some horrible husband who owed her compensation for her suffering. What suffering? Oh, just years of living in a paid-off house, with vacations, weekend brunches, and a husband who literally found out she was sneaking around in an arcade. So I had Tom very politely request a full financial audit. See, Lauren had forgotten something. The house was in my name. The savings? Mostly mine. And the car she traded in was technically registered under me. I let that sit for a while. Let her marinate in the idea that her brilliant plan was collapsing in slow motion. Step 2. A public service announcement. Lauren had been smart about hiding her affair until she wasn't. She had slipped up with the arcade, slipped up with the paintball, and now she had slipped up legally. Because the moment she filed for divorce, she forgot one crucial thing. We had mutual friends. Friends who didn't know what she had done. So, naturally, I fixed that problem. I didn't even have to lie. I just presented the facts. "Yeah, it's wild," I told our friends over coffee. "She's claiming emotional damages, but she's the one who was sneaking off to arcades with another guy for months." Silence. Then, "What?" And just like that, the wave started spreading. Lauren had spent so much time crafting her victim story, she forgot that reality still existed. Now, she wasn't the poor woman divorcing her terrible husband. She was the arcade cheater demanding cash. And let me tell you, that did not go over well with the people who once felt bad for her. Step 3. The final move. By the time we got to court, Lauren's confidence had shriveled like a sad houseplant in the sun. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to quit. Tom looked like he was having the time of his life. And me? I was relaxed, because I already knew how this would end. The judge listened to both sides, sighed dramatically, and then delivered the verdict. Lauren got nothing from the house. She didn't get the savings. She owed me compensation for the car she traded in. And the best part? She had to pay her own legal fees. I have never seen someone deflate so fast in my life. She didn't even look at me when we walked out of the courtroom. Didn't say a word. Just stormed off, realizing she had burned everything down for nothing. Tom patted my back. "Well, that was fun. Drinks on me?" "Absolutely." And just like that, it was over. I went home to my house, played my records, and for the first time in months, I felt completely free. Lauren tried to take everything from me. Instead, she lost it all. And I won. The end. Thanks for watching. Rate the story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel